Randomly with Ronnie Jr.
All right, welcome to the show, Randomly with Ronnie Jr. Geo Santini of After the Rain. How are you doing, man?
Good, brother. Thank you for having me on.
Let's get into what the movie's about. It's fair to say it's a mockumentary, correct? After the Rain is a documentary, but it's not real. It's a joke of sorts. Tell me about it.
It's a bit of a satire. You know what I'm saying? It's a satire based on a mockumentary based on the fictional character called Lil Tito, which is basically a character study of a bunch of real characters. And we created this fictional character, Lil Tito, who's a YouTube prankster, goes to jail for a prank that goes very wrong and ends up coming back out and turns into a hardcore hip hop artist. You know what I mean? And it's always his antics, his trolling, his antics, his clout chasing. And he becomes really popular, becomes really big, blows up huge. And it's just basically the character study of him constantly chasing that need for attention.
And it was done well because when I first saw it, I said, "Oh, this is an actual documentary." And then I'm like, "Oh, I don't like any of this kind of stuff, this clout chasey type stuff." And then I'm like, "Oh, it's just a satire." Right. But you made it feel so real. Where did your concept come from? You came up with this character, or was this a character you did back in the day, like when you used to do YouTube videos and stuff? Like, where does this Lil Tito character come from?
It's an archetype of a bunch of different characters. So it's an archetype of, so funny enough, I was on an interview yesterday and we were talking about that. It's literally based, the actual mannerisms and some of the tone of the character is based off a real guy that I knew, rapper, a long time ago. I won't even mention, I had a relationship with him. We were really cool, but we did some work together, but he reminded me of life. So I took a lot of those art attributes and I combined it with a lot of the archetypes of the young kids coming out together and kind of combined them together and made that character. All of the situations are basically all the stuff that you see here, the music videos, the trolls, the storylines. It's all basically of the relevant stuff that's going on in our culture when it comes down to even as far as lighthearted stuff, as far as dating for numbers, you know what I mean? Like dating the one who's got the most popular numbers or the one who gets you attention. Doing videos that get you attention, calling people out, stuff like that. So yeah, we basically made everything happen to mirror as much as what's going on in the real world as possible.
Now, Gio, so After the Rain, you wrote it, you directed it, and you're the star in it. Was there a moment that you maybe were going to put another actor in the lead, or was there something about it that you're like, listen, if I came up with the concept, I'm the only person to really execute this type of role?
No, it wasn't. It was actually originally too. It was like I was gonna probably look for a Lil Tito. It wasn't even that. I wanted to direct the movie. I wanted to create the story, but I wanted it to be a character story about one guy. You know what I'm saying? And it's not even. It's more about one guy, but it's also, you know, you also see in the movie the relationships between the friends, the relationships between the label, the relationships between his mom. So there's a lot of different perspectives that are thrown in there to show the life of one character, the fall and rise, because it's your common fall and rise story. You know what I'm saying? It's your common music story, but it's you know it touches a little bit like if you go back to CB4 and Spinal Tap and all those things that are like even before my time. I used to watch those things like when I was a little kid, didn't understand them and didn't understand how really smart they were, and then years later you kind of look back about it. But you know, it's about that character story. So it was like I said, originally I wanted to cast somebody and it just never really worked out, and then it was like, yo, we need so much time. So me and my team was like, yo, you know the characters.
Yeah, because I came across your older, like you had the Wise Guys YouTube series, so all those characters to me is like, oh, he could draw from so many different places. I mean, and as you said, like Lil Tito was, you know, he was definitely something, but there was different parts of him. You know, you could see him like questioning himself, but then like being so into the clout chasing situation. So it kind of reminded me of like, oh, okay, cool, like you've done this before and you just put it all into one character to a degree.
Right, one character, and also what's going on in music right now, what's going on in hip hop right now. It's very relevant with the cloud chasing, the attention seeking. there's actually a bunch of little Titos out there right now. So it's really interesting. And then, when they get in trouble, what that trouble means. Because there's like, it's fun and games on the internet, and the consequences don't seem much like when it's on your phone. But, when it becomes real life situations, kids are going to jail, kids are getting killed, kids are getting shot at. Like it's real. So it's like, so that's the part of the movie. It's fun because it's funny. It's these situations are outrageous, but there's a real life story in here that has that message. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's Gio. That's why I didn't think I was gonna laugh as much as I did, because I was like, oh man, like I see all the clout chasing situations, and I'm like, because I'm older, I'm like, I'll pay it no mind, right? So when I was going to watch the film After the Rain, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to really pay it too much attention in the regards of like, it's just a silly story. But really, the outer characters were just as funny. Like, I think it was his manager or a lawyer. Oh, like every time they went back to the lawyer, it was the lawyer, correct?
Yeah, well, we had the lawyer, we had his radio developer, his record label guy. Yeah.
The asinine shit that they would say, and that's literally how it's become. Now the funny thing is, when you look at it, it does feel like very like a hip-hop young situation, but the reality is like musicians have faced stuff like this for years and years and years. I mean, even going back to like where controversy sells, in a good way though. Madonna was controversial. It's just what made this movie interesting to me was that you made the mockumentary of what's going on now, but it's just gone too far, so to speak. So to find humor, I didn't know how you were going to do it, because it just didn't seem feasible, but it was very good. And I think it looked really cool too, because you had Cory Rooney was in it as well, so there was like a little bit of credibility. Talk to me about assembling your cast and who was important to be in the cast and why.
Well, I had a relationship with Cory Rooney, and I just thought about him from the get-go, because what I wanted to be, I come from music, so I wanted all the music people. So it's not only Cory, the guys who are doing the reaction videos, those are real YouTubers, like it's Flight, it's B. Lou. Those are real guys that do that for a living, that, have these big channels and really react on big videos and big controversies and big sporting events and stuff like that. So I wanted it all to feel J Rhythm's in there, that's a real DJ. Like I wanted it all to feel as authentic as possible. So, and again, it wasn't even acting, it was them doing what they do. And then, even with Cory, when I had the relationship, I pitched him this thing. He's like, look, it's cool, I'm down. Like whatever you need me to do. He's like, I don't need a script. You just tell me the scenarios. And, it was so easy for him, and he looked so flawless into it. Like you believe, like he knew this guy's career. He he just knew to draw from 17 different situations that he's seen happen. You know what I mean? Like it's just really real. That's the sad part about it. It's funny, it's jokey, but it's like, yo, really, this shit really goes down that way. You know what I'm saying? Things really go down that way.
Yeah, well, that is true, because Cory Rooney was also in that FX series recently too, and so those were some very serious issues. So that's, like I said, like where I felt like, how are we going to make this funny? But you managed to do it. You managed to make it feel real. J Rhythm actually being at Sirius XM, so all that stuff sounded good. It's just like the reaction from the character Lil Tito was very funny, because what struck me too in his interview with J Rhythm, he had nothing to say. Like the guy was interviewing him, and this rapper who was on the charts, within a day, so to speak. Like every time a question came to him, he just like he had nothing to draw from, which feels very real. You see these young kids, like, yeah, they have their clout and they got their million followers, but they actually don't have anything to say, which that struck a chord with me a little bit too.
Or sometimes it's different personalities. They know how to be a personality for the phone, but they don't need to be a personality when they talk. But it just becomes it's a different situation sometimes. And I think in the case of Lil Tito is I think it's more of an act. And I in some of these interviews you could tell where it's an act, or they just really don't want to be there. Like they, what I mean, there's so many scenarios to those situations. So we, because I watched hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different interviews, and just looking at the different tones and how each artist deals with any of those situations. So
Yeah, some of it was so real, like you say, like some of it very much does make sense. Like you're going to date somebody based on, you know, what they could do and how they could usher you into another world. That stuff does happen, but this was almost like an extreme case, but it's an extreme case that all these kids are doing. And yeah, a little bit of caution to it because, you know, you see the rise and fall of the whole situation at hand. Talk about making it real and the other characters. You've got actors from the Connors, East Los High, all kinds of different, you know, some really great actors in there. How did that all come together?
Knew their work. I just knew the quality of the actors. Some of them I had relationships with, so it was just more of like, while I was writing this, I seen this people kind of be in it. You know what I'm saying? Renee Versato, who's in the Connors, he's done a bunch of stuff, and I just knew him. I had a relationship with him. I just knew it'd be a good fit, and so that's how I went on casting it. Some of it was actual casting where the casting director brought in people. But that's how I kind of mainly assembled the cast.
Did you have any roadblocks putting it together? How did it come together from beginning to end, kind of a deal? Was this way before COVID too, or was this during?
We shot this way before COVID. We started shooting in August of 2018, and we kind of wrapped it. But the problem was we did a couple of pieces, because what ended up happening with this it was like we were shooting 3 films at the same time. We were shooting documentary, we were shooting the narrative, and we were shooting the music part of it, like the lifestyle of it. So it was kind of and we were shooting a reality show. That's what I meant. So it's like it was putting all those elements together. And what you end up finding was that we had to build the world. So when we first shot, our initial first 3 weeks we shot, we got it. There was pieces missing, and we had to really build things like concerts. We had to build the different music videos. So it was a long, extended process. So we started in August 2018. We went through the process. We finished it in probably a year later, in August of 19, and then in February 2020, we did the final mixes. We were done color. We did the final mix because we were just waiting to get into the studio. So when we did the final mixes on the stages, we were ready to go in February 2020. It was supposed to be released in the summer of 2020, but obviously COVID happened and kind of put a stall in everything.
And it's available on all the platforms at the moment, or?
It's available on all the platforms. So you could get it on Apple, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Vudu, you can get it on Comcast cable, you can get it on your VOD provider.
Yeah, go find it. Go find it after the rain. Geo Santini. So without giving away too much of like the funny stuff, is there a scene that you could recall where like the day you guys were shooting, like you're like, yo, I'm doing some really silly shit right now? Is there any moment that you're like, when you see it on paper, but then you're actually acting out that dialogue? Anything that comes to mind?
There was stuff that was even more sillier that we cut out, and I don't think a lot. There was stuff that there was about 20 minutes of the movie that didn't make it into the movie. At the end of the day, there was more. The dragon situation, that was a little silly. I thought that was it.
The music video, almost like a Game of Thrones music video. I mean, again, you shouldn't be laughing at this stuff, but the kids do this stuff. So, I mean, it is what it is.
And we had real heads. I mean, it was just, I don't know if it was as like super silly or just like, yo, this is really outrageous and outlandish. And we just, I think we just loved it. We just went for it. It wasn't second guessing. We just went for it. There's stuff that was too silly. There was a scene that was a prank with a homeless man. We cut that out. There was stuff in there that we cut out, but for the most part, it wasn't, we just kind of went for it. We didn't really second guess it. And then we looked at it in the editing room, and if it didn't make sense, it just got cut out.
Yeah, that's where a little bit of the magic was, because I mean, I like how the shots in the documentary part would kind of pause it for a moment, like you really got to see, it felt documentary-ish, some of the cast members in the documentary portion just sounded so real, even the little pauses and the and the, so that looked kind of cool. Your costuming though was pretty good too. That's to me what made it really funny. I'm like, this is some wild, like no one would do this. And then I'm like, yeah, no, they definitely do all of this shit.
The flash is there. The flash is definitely there. So yeah. So it was just, thinking out the whole, again, just building an archetype for the character. So it was more like we looked at all the variations of what was going on and kind of with all those little pieces and elements, and then kind of threw them into the mix, and then kind of saucered up our own version of Little Tito, what we think Little Tito would be. You know what I mean? And then we also gave Little Tito his own little thing that was kind of unique and different. You know what I'm saying? And then I also wanted to show the two sides of it. Somebody who's insecure, somebody who like, you know, again, something we were talking about is somebody who is so easily manipulated, because it is easy to manipulate it when somebody's selling you a dream and you want to buy a dream. You know what I'm saying? So it's very easy to be manipulated.
Yeah, like his label guy kept just gassing him up, and it would like all this stuff didn't sound right, but then it was like, yeah, this is how it works in the music industry. And so if you are, and that's where I shouldn't knock the young kids in the clout chasing type situation, because if you are an artist and this is what you want to do, it is easy to get lost in it. So that does make sense.
That happens. I mean, like even the one joke with the video that happened. I mean, I know a lot of people who paid these enormous amounts of. I mean, obviously everything in the movie is a little exaggerated, but I mean, I've seen situations where people are like, "Yo, where did you spend the money for this video? Why are you getting charged this?" And you know, and that happens. You know what I mean? People are just getting, you know, and they're signing with labels and they're not feeling anything different, but their labels just taking all their money, and it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, it felt like a good takeaway for everyone though, because everyone who is doing a creative thing on any level, like you just have to take a moment to chill sometimes, because you got to really think about like, is this what I want to do? Otherwise, sometimes the machine is moving too quick and then you're going to end up in a situation that doesn't suit you. So I thought there was a little bit of a message in that regard too, with the way the character, what was his first name? Because he wasn't Lil Tito at the beginning. He was like Diego or something like
Benito Cruz.
Benito, yeah. And was he always, so LA was the setting to a degree because he was, you know, from East LA, but he really was from the Valley Village. I chuckled at that joke. I liked it.
Yeah, no, so it's basically, you know, again, like it touches on the of a lot of some rappers being, you know, not really from this area, but they need the clout, so they get affiliated with the gang or get affiliated with a certain area that they're not really from. I mean, that's been going on for more than 20 something years. Rappers been doing that. You know what I mean? There's the ones that are really from where they say they're from, and there's the ones who are faking it till they make it. You know what I'm saying? But then the fake it till they make it has its own consequences when it follows it.
Yeah, I wish we weren't in a fake it till you make it mode, but we are. But you know, it did showcase consequences, which was good. Now you said that there was like the reality version, the you know, that aspect of filming and the documentary and the music videos or whatever, but also taking it beyond that, the soundtrack for After the Rain is also available now. Talk about like who you chose or why you chose and how that came together.
So the soundtrack, yeah, it's available on all the DSPs, Spotify, Music, Apple Music, all that. They're everywhere, all those platforms. And the soundtrack was interesting because we wanted to make original music for Little Tito. So basically, that soundtrack, I reached out to a real rapper, a good friend of mine, Jay Hustles, and I told him, I was like, this is the concept. So from those concepts, we created the songs, and he created the songs, and we created the songs, and we shot the videos, and we shot the music, and all those stories, all those music had anthems to it. And then on the top, on the other side of that, I wanted real rap artists that would complement Tito to basically be the antagonist of him in a certain way. So that was Fresh, who's a real artist, used to be signed to Lil Wayne, now has his own label, has done things with 50, has done things with Chris Brown. He's a huge artist. He's got a song out right now. Mosa's doing really well. We shot 2 music videos well together. So he was what my epiphany of what a real, genuine artist. So I wanted that real, genuine artist to counterbalance the fake artist or the poser part of it. And then you know, and then Mickey, who plays Cocaine Tony, who plays the label guy, he's actually an artist. He's on Love and Hip Hop right now, and he's basically he's an artist. He did a piece of music for the soundtrack. And a good friend of mine, Jay Kraft, who plays one of the entourage, he had a song that just dropped, and I heard it. I was like, this is real hip hop. I was like, yo, can I put this on the soundtrack? And he's like, you have my blessing. So I put that on the soundtrack. And another kid named C5, who's just a genuinely talented artist from Oakland. And I listened to his music, and I was like, we were just listening. He saw the movie. He's like, dude, I really love this movie. And I was like, I really like this music. I was like, yo, you want to drop a track on the soundtrack? Let's do it. And that's kind of how the soundtrack came together. And we just put it together. And it was like, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's got different elements to it. It's got different colors. So we're just putting it out there as part of the movie, as part of the ecosystem, just to have it out there. You know what I mean? And have fun with it.
Yeah, I like the full scope of it because it is comic, you'll get from the After the Rain film, but then the music kind of contrasts that a little bit. It's a full scope, which you did really well at. So did it get some shine at the New York Film Festival, the Latino Film Festival?
Yeah, and the New York Latino Film Festival got, so because of COVID, we weren't able to go. I mean, it got into a bunch of film festivals, but due to the fact that COVID happened, they weren't really, it was difficult for us because they weren't really presenting like you would go in a real film festival. You go to the premiere, you were able to get different press. So what we ended up doing was when the New York Film Festival, we had submitted before COVID, we got accepted. They were doing, I had talked to Calixto, who is the head of the festival. And I was like, all right, that sounds like a good way to do the festival. And because it's sponsored by HBO, and because I've had a relationship, I had two other films there, I was like, it will look like a good mix. And I was like, you know what? COVID isn't going anywhere. I was like, all right, it's time to, because I was kind of putting the film on pause as far as shopping it, as far as like what we're going to do with it, as far as release. I was like, you know what? I guess now in September it's time to start releasing it. So September, we went out to the film festival. It did really well. I think we were one of the guys from the film festival was telling me we got the most views at the film festival. And then shortly after that, we just started negotiating distribution deals, and we found our best deal. And we're like, all right, let's go with these guys and let's make it happen. Let's get it out there.
You talked about in the film how like there was some funny stuff that you kind of maybe edited out. Was there anything in the writing process or the story itself that was maybe on the flip side of that, like too harsh that you didn't want to really touch on because maybe it was too real regarding some of the situations that happened, like you say, in 2021 and 2020?
Another big part of hip hop is the drug element in it. They're rapping about drugs, rapping about Xanax, rapping about lean and all that stuff. And one of the things I just wanted to do was like I just wanted out of this story just to take out the drug element from it completely. So I didn't touch any basis on that. You know what I'm saying? Besides the one scene where they're having a couple of drinks, and the one scene that he's drunk, I really did not want to touch on substances.
Yeah.
I really wanted to touch on the internet, the cloud chasing, and also one of the biggest things for me is the addiction. And I think this was more important for my story was the addiction to attention versus substance. You know what I'm saying? So it's make it the more important to get the attention than to do good music or to do a good product or to do good art.
Oh, so you're saying like his drug was the attention thing, which is a very true thing.
His drug was the attention. That's exactly what it. So I really wanted that to be the center point. So I stayed away from those. So answering your question, basically staying away from the drug element.
That is so true, though, that attention as the issue at hand, because it is an addiction. It is a drug. People get one little hit and they want more. In fact, a lot of not me knowing the dialogue, of course, but there was a couple times in the film After the Rain where some of the people who were, I guess, maybe talking in the documentary or the bloggers or whatever, they would say something like, oh, he did this and then he was hot, or he did this and then he had 1 million views. Like it was as if anything that happened, as long as he got those big numbers, that's all anyone cared about. And that's speaking to addiction on all ends, but no one ever said like, oh, he's good, or his music, like music didn't matter. So that is an addiction thing. It's almost like a addiction to everyone involved, and so you touched on that, funny as well. Where were you at with your career leading up to this? Because this is a situation where you're acting in the film, you wrote it, directed it. Why the move to do this on your own? Where were you at before this? Like, had you had some roadblocks and you said, hey, I want to do it all on my own, or how did that fall into place?
Story, I definitely had roadblocks because nobody, like, if I was bringing it to producers and talking to producers and talking to different, agents and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to develop this. And obviously, this is a timely subject matter. And also the process to make a film sometimes takes a long time. It could be, if you're good at it, or depending on it, could be 1.5 to 2 years to make it really pop off. You know what I mean? That's just getting to be able to shoot. So for me, time was of an essence. And then the second aspect of it, I looked at it and when I was pitching it to people, they were like, yo, why would we care about this? Like, why would we care? There was a huge, I don't know. And I was like, this is reason why. because there's billions and billions and billions of streams, and it's not mainstream, or like pop culture does it, like it's in pop culture, but like regular America doesn't know about it, or regular mainstream America doesn't know about it. And this is crazy. And I think to me, it was just a lover of hip hop, a lover of music. It was like, I just felt that this story needed to be out. So the roadblocks was getting it done. I had to take the reign and kind of like get it done. As far as where I was in my career, I did the show in 2015. I did after Borderline for Amazon, and then I was like, I had started from YouTube. I actually started a film. I did a film in 2010 called Hotel California that came out, that originally premiered in the New York Film Festival. But I just basically decided to I was doing really well on YouTube, and then after I did the TV show, the YouTube stuff kind of like fizzled out, and I was like, I'm not really feeling like doing a video every week. I was like, I want to do something bigger on the narrative standpoint. So, and that's my original love, is narrative. So I just went back to those roots and stayed to that consistently.
Where was the original idea from? Like, where did that come from? Like that you just said you wanted to make sure some people know about it, but not everyone knows mainstream America. Like where did that idea come from, though, to showcase a rapper who was so far gone from where he started out as, and what this music industry is like? Why did you come up? Where was the light bulb for that?
It was in the indulgence of hip hop itself, the indulgence of the culture. Like, I was just watching it. It's passing through my eyes. I was watching the interviews every morning. I was watching the Instagram, the post, and watching the stories, and watching all these overnight celebrities. You know what I'm saying? Because it was literally now, used to hear the thing, overnight celebrity, it takes you 10 years to be an overnight celebrity. These kids were actually overnight. They were in their basement. They made a song. They recorded it. The following week,
Yeah.
they got 700,000 views. You know what I'm saying? They're getting all this attention. It just became this thing where it just like was crazy. You know what I mean? It happened all overnight.
So you saw, because you've been a fan of hip hop from the earlier days, and then you see how it's evolved. So as it's evolved, are there still artists that you still enjoy now that, because sometimes it is like, remember that term back in the day where it was like, oh, let the work speak for itself? That kind of doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, which I really like that. So, huh?
I'm sorry.
So you probably look at it and remember all the MCs from back in the day, and now it's a new culture, even though it's a little bit different. And there are some things that are, not my favorite thing to see, the clout chasing situation. But is there any of the young artists that you still do enjoy, just because you feel like they've hit a stride?
Yeah, there's a lot of young artists that I really like. There's a couple of people that are coming out right now, and there's movements and different pockets that they're coming out. I mean, everybody's like, majority of music is garbage, and to be honest, in a sense, that is true. Majority of the music is garbage, but there are artists that I actually enjoy, and there's every so often you get a pocket of artists that are nice, are really good, and that you love. And at the same token, it's like, those are the artists that have longevity. Those are the artists, like, when you look at a Kendrick, what he has a long career. You look like a Drake is going to have a long career, and artists that come out with that type of detail, or that type of emphasis on the quality of the music or their product or their craftsmanship, I think they're going to extend long. I think when they find their fan base, they're going to extend long. And there's a group of guys that I love out of New York right now, Griselda, what I'm saying, Benny the Butcher. I mean, these guys, and they just have a sound and a style. They're not cloud chasing. They're older. They're just making music that I really vibe to. So I do like a lot of it. There's a lot of stuff that I do like. So I'm not finding myself in a situation where it's like, oh, I wish back in the days, like, yeah, I enjoy the stuff from back in the day, like the Jay-Z's and the Nas's, but there's a lot of stuff popping off today that I still love too.
So almost like you have to curate what you want. If you just have that blanket sentence like, oh, it's all trash, then that's what it's going to be. But if you look and curate, you're going to find something good. That's a good point.
I feel like it's like that with movies. I feel like that's with everything. It's just because there's so much platforms out right now. With the basis of our phones, we've created so much more different content. There's like, between TikTok and Vine, and Vine's over, but between TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, that there's so much content that it's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of trash, and there's so much. It's just like there's so much fast food. You know what I'm saying? A lot of
Yeah, that's true, right? Just because McDonald's is on every corner doesn't mean you can't be vegan.
Exactly. But there's spots that you're gonna find the good food, you're gonna find the quality stuff. There's still places that care for that. You know what I mean?
What do you think you learned about the music industry with this, or did you learn anything at all? And secondly, most importantly, what did you learn about the filmmaking process? Because this is probably the longest process that you've worked on. What is your big takeaway from kind of beginning to end?
What I learned about the music industry, I really didn't learn much about the music industry. It's the music industry learns how to adapt, but they're still doing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? They're in the business of making music. The one thing that the music business is changing is they are now more invested in your brand versus your music. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, you know, when you mention Madonna, like Madonna could go sell 10 million records, and they would make a ton of money off those 10 million records. Right now, you know, an artist can have, you know, a Drake can do 150 million streams. The record label ain't really making that much money off of those streams. So, but they're making money off the brand, off the different elements. So I think that's one of the things that I have a takeaway from that.
And that is so crazy because back in the day, I mean, just not as a joke per se, but like when you had somebody like Hammer was like teaming up with Pepsi, everyone thought that was like extremely cheesy, and it may have been. But now everybody is about a brand deal and like what else you're going to do outside of just the music.
Money, yeah. But the music is just the calling card, you know what I'm saying? And if you got attention on that calling card, then you have to make money, and it's either your brand deals, it's your advertising, it's your sponsorship. It's like, you know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, ain't no, like, you know, and it's not, you know, people want to knock it, but here's the reality though. A NASCAR car drives around the track, you know, 1,000 times. People aren't really paying. They might be paying to see that car run around, but that's not where they're making the money. The money's being made with all the sponsorship and all the stickers that's on that car.
Where do you want to go from here? Like, do you think about like, oh my gosh, I want to do another film, or does this feel very complete right now?
No, I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this project, like the way it came out, and I'm happy with the buzz it's getting. I'm happy with all the energy. But at the same time, now I think the thing I want to do now, I just finished shooting a film in January. We shot for 20 days. We shot a thriller. I'm going to be completing that this year, and me and my friend who actually produced that movie, we're going to be writing a show together in September. So completing a movie and completing a TV show by the end of the year. That's basically where the focus is right now.
Well, congratulations, man. Anything else you need to just chat about as far as After the Rain, or just proud moment for you and getting received pretty well? Any last like messages though, just about making it and how fun it was for you?
It was just fun. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of time, but you know, if something's worth it, you kind of put it in there. So I just hope everybody appreciates it.
Yeah, this was a funny way to take a look at it. I was not sure what I was going to expect, and I found myself chuckling specifically at that lawyer. He was real funny based on the dialogue. So congratulations, and thanks for sharing the film, and I hope people enjoy it.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your time, bro. Thank you.
That's Geo Santini. He wrote it, directed, starred in it, and it's called After the Rain, and it's very funny. So hopefully people enjoy it. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Thank you, brother.